It was a Sunday morning, sometime after 9. I remember that because the sunlight was pouring in through the blinds, and our dog, Jasper, was lying belly up by the back door, snoring louder than any living thing should be able to. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in pajama pants, trying to reheat yesterday's coffee in the microwave. Just another quiet, domestic weekend. That's when she said it. Claire didn't raise her voice. She didn't look at me. She didn't pause for effect or try to brace me for what was coming. She just said it, plain as day, like she was asking me if I remembered to buy paper towels. I don't love you anymore. 6 words. That's all it took. She said it while scrolling on her phone, not even glancing up. Her tone didn't shake. It was as matter of fact as telling me she'd run out of oat milk. And somehow, that made it worse. At first, I didn't register it. I thought I'd misheard. I was still blinking sleep from my eyes, trying to calculate how long coffee could sit in the pot before it got dangerous. But something about the way she didn't follow it up, that silence after she spoke, made it land harder than any screaming match ever could have. I froze, mug halfway to my lips. And in that stillness, something inside me cracked, quietly but deeply. Claire didn't look up. Her thumb kept swiping, her eyes glued to whatever feed or screen held more meaning to her than I apparently did. And that was when it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't spontaneous. She had rehearsed this, sat with it, let marinate. Hell, maybe she had even waited for the right day to deliver the line. A clean Sunday morning, no kids, no plans, no audience. Just me, her, and the slow, suffocating honesty of her indifference. She didn't expect a reaction. That was the part that really gutted me. She expected me to take it quietly, passively, like I always had. Over the years, I'd grown used to her checking out. Emotionally, physically. We stopped holding hands somewhere between her new promotion and our 10th anniversary. Conversations became logistics. Plans were hers, and I was the guy she updated afterward. Somewhere along the way, I became background noise in my own marriage. But still, I thought we were in it. I thought we were trying. I thought that maybe if I kept being patient, kept showing up, kept trying to carry the weight of us on my back, we'd find our way back. But Claire had already decided. That much was clear. And she hadn't told me because she wanted to talk about it. She told me because she assumed I'd accept it, like a resignation letter slipped across a desk. And maybe a year ago, I would have. Maybe even last month. But not today. I didn't say anything. Not right away. I just watched her, studied her like a stranger across a crowded cafe. Her body language screamed detachment. Legs curled up under her, head tilted toward the window, lips pursed slightly the way they always did when she was focused on her phone. There was no grief, no guilt, not even the polite sympathy you might offer a wounded animal. Just distance. Cold, calculated distance. And in that moment, I saw everything for what it was. The late nights at work, the weekend trips with her coworkers, the birthday she forgot last year. Not because she was busy, but because she just didn't care. It all fell into place like a cruel puzzle. And I realized she'd already left me. Months ago, maybe longer. All that was left now was the formality of it. I stood up slowly. No yelling. No dramatics. Just stood, heart hammering so hard I could feel in my throat. Claire didn't flinch. Didn't pause. Didn't even pretend to care. So I walked to the bedroom. Opened the closet. Pulled out the old blue suitcase. The one we'd used on our honeymoon. Funny how things come full circle, isn't it? I started packing. Not my stuff, hers. Neatly. Deliberately. Folding her clothes the way she liked them folded. Placing her favorite shoes in the side pockets. Rolling her scarves so they wouldn't wrinkle. I didn't rush. I didn't toss things around like a man in a rage. I moved calmly, methodically. Because this wasn't about fury. It was about choice. Claire didn't follow me. Didn't ask what I was doing. Didn't say a word. And that silence, that vacuum, was the loudest thing I'd heard all morning. Because deep down, she didn't think I had it in me. She thought I'd do what I always did. Nothing. But she was wrong. When the suitcase was full, I zipped it closed and wheeled it down the hallway. Each rotation of the wheels against the wood floor felt like punctuation. Not on a fight, but on a chapter. I placed it by the front door. Still, she didn't move. And that's when she finally looked up, Claire's eyes met mine for the first time that morning. It wasn't surprise exactly, more like confusion, maybe even disbelief. As if she hadn't expected me to do anything at all. And honestly, I think that's what hurt the most. She said something that shattered our marriage, and still, she thought I'd just sit there, take it, go make breakfast, or fold laundry, or ask her if she wanted coffee. Instead, I stood between her and the suitcase, calm as ever. Her phone lowered slowly from her hand. She studied me, eyes flicking from my face to the suitcase, then back again. Her mouth opened slightly, like she might say something, but she didn't. She just stared. "You can take it," I said, my voice even, but my chest was pounding. "Or I can drop it off for you." "Your call." Claire blinked. Once. Twice. Then she shifted in her seat, like she was trying to recalibrate the moment. "What is this?" she asked, voice flat. "You said you don't love me anymore," I said. "I heard you." She looked down for a second, her jaw tightening. "That doesn't mean I was asking you to kick me out." "You weren't asking for anything," I said, keeping my voice low. "You made a statement. I'm just acting accordingly." There was a pause. Long, heavy. I could see the gears turning in her head. Claire had always been the one in control. She'd call the shots, set the tone, and the arguments before they started. This was the first time I'd ever flipped the script on her, and it was throwing her off. "You're overreacting," she said eventually, but even she didn't sound convinced. "Am I?" I asked. "Because I don't think I am. I think I've been underreacting for years." That shut her up. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching her face. I wasn't looking for a fight. I wasn't hoping she'd cry or beg or try to take it back. I just wanted her to see that she no longer held all the power, that she could no longer dangle the marriage in front of me like a carrot, expecting me to jump every time she moved it. "You decided how this story was going to end," I said. "You just thought I'd wait around for the last page." Claire stood slowly, finally setting her phone down on the table. She didn't come closer, didn't touch the suitcase, but her eyes narrowed like she was trying to figure out who I'd become overnight. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "What's ridiculous is thinking you can check out a marriage and still expect the other person to sit here like nothing happened." I wasn't yelling. That was the part that seemed to bother her the most. If I had screamed or thrown something, maybe she could have called me dramatic, unhinged, irrational. But I was calm. That made it real. She walked toward the door, stopped short of the suitcase, and then turned back to me. "I didn't mean it like that, Mike." I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't mean what? That you don't love me anymore?" "Because that's a pretty specific sentence, Claire." Silence again. Then I don't know what I feel right now. Now that was honest. I let the words settle in the room between us. For a long time, neither of us moved. I think she expected me to give her a chance to explain, to walk it back, to soften the blow. But I didn't. I wasn't angry. I was just done. I finally spoke. "You don't have to know what you feel. But you said out loud. That means something." She stepped back, crossing her arms tightly across her chest. "So that's it? You just giving up?" I laughed, just once sharp and short. "You think I'm giving up?" "Claire, I've been carrying this marriage by myself for years. You stopped showing up a long time ago." "No, she started but stopped. "You don't talk to me. You don't ask about my day. You sleep with your phone under your pillow, and I haven't seen you smile at me in months. What exactly am I holding on to here?" Claire looked away, her face reddening slightly. Whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. And then the quietest voice I've ever heard her use. "So what now?" I looked at the suitcase, then back at her. "That's up to you," I said. "But I'm not going to keep pretending we're okay. If you're gone emotionally, then be gone physically too. I won't stop you." She stood still for a while. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Just looked at that suitcase like it might come to life and answer for her. I could see the struggle in her face, the part of her that wanted to maintain control, that wanted to keep me right where she had me, comfortable and silent. But I wasn't that guy anymore. "If you stay," I added quietly, "it's not going to be like before. You don't get to be here just to avoid being somewhere else. If you stay, it's because you want to all in. Otherwise, that door's right there." Her lips parted, but no words came out. And for the first time since she said she didn't love me anymore, she looked afraid. Not of me, but of what it meant to lose someone who had finally decided he was done being disposable. Claire didn't answer. She just stood there, still as stone, her arms crossed like a shield across her chest. The suitcase was inches away from her, but she didn't touch it. She didn't even look at it anymore. Instead, her eyes were locked on mine, as if she was trying to decide whether I was bluffing. But I wasn't, and I think, somewhere deep down, she knew that. "You're serious," she said finally. Not as a question, more like an accusation. I've never been more serious in my life. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I could see her jaw tightening, the way it always did when she felt cornered. Claire didn't like when people took control away from her. For as long as I can remember, she's been the one steering the ship. If we argued, she set the terms. If there was tension, she decided when it ended. And I let her. I let her call the shots for years, thinking I was keeping the peace. But peace shouldn't come at the cost of your own self-worth. "Do you want me to go?" she asked suddenly. That caught me off guard. Not because of the question, but because of the way she asked it. Not defensive, not angry, almost scared. And not of me, of what her leaving would mean. "I want you to decide for yourself," I replied. "I'm done deciding things for both of us." She looked down. Her shoulders slumped just enough to notice, like someone let the air out of her. I could tell she wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't chase, didn't beg, didn't fold at the first sign of conflict. "Mike," she said softly, "it's not like I woke up this morning and stopped loving you." I didn't say anything. She kept going, words spilling out now, clumsy and unpracticed, like she'd never had a fight to be understood before. "It's been building. I don't even know when it started. I don't feel close to you anymore. And that's on me?" I asked, not sarcastic, just tired. "No," she admitted, barely above a whisper. "I think it's on both of us." She sat down at the table, the same spot where she'd first dropped the bomb. It felt strange seeing her there again, like I was watching a replay of a different version of us. "I've been angry," she said. "I've been resentful. And instead of talking to you about it, I shut you out. I made decisions without you. I went numb. And I convinced myself you didn't care either. I stayed where I was, arms still crossed. Listening. Processing. But I was wrong," she added. "You did care. You always did. I just didn't want to admit it because it was easier to paint you as the problem." For a second, I almost felt something soften inside me. But it didn't last. "You told me you didn't love me," I said flatly. "You didn't say you were hurting. You didn't ask for help. You just delivered the verdict." She nodded slowly, the weight of that moment finally seeming to land. "I know, and I wish I could take it back. But you can't." "No," she whispered. "I can't." I took a deep breath. I could feel the exhaustion in my bones, the kind that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying something alone for too long. "Look," I said, rubbing a hand down my face, "I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is the end or some kind of reckoning. But I can't be the only one trying anymore, Claire. I need more than silence. I need more than I don't know how I feel. That's not a marriage. That's survival." Her eyes glistened. She nodded slowly, tears threatening to spill but not quite falling. Claire never cried easily. She wore her emotions like armor, polished, hard, and always impenetrable. Seeing even a crack meant something. "I want to try," she said, barely audible. I looked at her, really looked, and I wanted to believe her. But belief wasn't something that came cheap anymore. "I don't need words," I said. "I need change. I need honesty. And I need to know that if I reach out again, I'm not grabbing for someone who's already halfway out the door." She wiped at her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. "Okay." I nodded once, still unsure what any of this meant. We were in limbo now, no longer falling apart, but not quite putting things back together either. And maybe that's the most dangerous place to be. I picked up the suitcase and rolled it back toward the bedroom. She didn't stop me, not because she was staying, but because she hadn't decided yet. And this time, I wasn't going to decide for her. The next few days were quiet, uncomfortably so. We moved around the house like polite strangers. We spoke when we had to. Dishes were done. Jasper was fed. The rhythm of life kept going, but nothing felt real. It was like we were both waiting for something. Her make a choice, me to accept whatever that choice would be. The suitcase stayed in the bedroom, untouched. Neither of us mentioned it. That somehow felt more telling than anything we could have said. On the third night, I came home from work and found her sitting on the back porch. She had a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, a half-full glass of wine beside her, and she was staring out at the yard like she'd never seen it before. She didn't look up when I stepped outside. I didn't say anything at first, just stood there in the doorway, watching her. The sky was a dull navy, the last traces of sunlight gone. There was a chill in the air, the kind that creeps in through your sleeves when you're not paying attention. "I used to love this backyard," she said finally. "We had that barbecue after we moved in. Remember?" "Yeah," I said. "You made those bacon-wrapped jalapenos that everyone hated except me." She gave a small, tired smile. "You ate like 12. I felt it for 2 days." We sat in the quiet for a while, her in the chair, me leaning against the doorframe. And for a brief second, it felt like us again, just two people who used to know how to laugh together. Then she said it. "I'm going to go stay at my sister's for a while." I nodded slowly. It wasn't a shock, but it still landed with that same dull thud in my chest. "I think we both need space," she added, "to figure out what we really want, who we really are outside of this. Outside of this. As in, the life we built. The one we were supposed to keep building together." I didn't try to stop her, because the truth is, she was right. We didn't need space. But I also knew, somewhere deep in my gut, that this wasn't just about space. It was about distance. And distance doesn't always lead to clarity. Sometimes it just becomes a new normal. She left 2 days later. No big scene. No yelling. She packed lightly, just a duffel bag and the suitcase I'd filled for her. She didn't ask for help carrying it out. I didn't offer. When she reached the front door, she turned around. "I don't know how this ends," she said quietly. "I do," I replied just as quiet. "It ends the way it needs to, for both of us." She gave me a long look, one I couldn't quite read. And then she was gone. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loud. I kept expecting to hear her footsteps upstairs, her voice on the phone in the kitchen, the sound of her toothbrush humming from the bathroom. But the house was still and hollow. The next morning, I found myself staring at the empty side of the bed. Not crying, not even sad, just aware of the space she used to take up and how much of that space had already been vacated long before she walked out the door. In the weeks that followed, I started figuring things out. For the first time in years, I thought about what I wanted, just me. I reconnected with my brother, took Jasper on long walks. I even signed up for a woodworking class I've been putting off for, 5 years? People ask if we're separated. Some friends, some coworkers. I usually just say, we're figuring it out. But the truth is, I think I've already figured it out. Sometimes people drift, not because someone's evil or because there was some dramatic betrayal, but because one person starts leaving in small, almost invisible ways and the other person pretends not to notice. Until one day, someone says something like, "I don't love you anymore," and everything you ignored becomes undeniable. Claire and I still talk. Civil, brief. There's no venom between us, just space. The kind that comes after too many unspoken things and too many moments lost to routine and silence. She says she's seeing a therapist. Good for her. I'm thinking about going too. But if I'm being honest, I don't think we're going to make our way back. I think the version of us that mattered is already gone. And maybe that's okay. Not all endings are explosive. Sometimes they're quiet. Sometimes they show up on a Sunday morning, tucked between cold coffee and an idle phone, and they ask you to make a choice. Stay broken, or finally let go. I chose to let go.